Yes, my people, it is your boy VRD, and we are back for another commentated drive video. In today's video, we are going to be taking a Class 395 Javelin down from St. Pancras International to Faversham. On our journey today, we'll be calling at Stratford International, Ebbsfleet International, Gravesend, Strood, Rochester, Chatham, Gillingham, Rainham, Sittingbourne, and finally Faversham, which is a journey time of about 70 minutes. So this is going to be my longest commentary drive so far. And it is currently, well, the game time is in sync with real time, so it's 9:18 at night, and I'm attempting to record this. Pray for me, please. Anyway, as you guys can probably tell, I've sorted out the microphone volume as well, so the microphone shouldn't be excessively loud anymore. Because I noticed when I was watching quite a few of my videos back, my voice was a bit too loud, it was a bit bassy. But anyway, enough of that being said, let's get straight into the setup procedure here, because we do not have a lot of time. I'm just going to start by entering the back cab. Ooh, this is the wrong train. I almost forgot. We can look at the map here. There are two trains in the same platform, but they're not coupled together. So our train is up at the other end of the platform. This train is going to depart from St. Pancras after our train departs. So yeah, there's our train up there. Am I recording? Yeah. This is it's just become a tradition at this point. Yep, I am recording. And here is our train right here with its lovely rainbow flag. We're going to enter the back cab, sit in the seat, take command of the service, and all I'm going to do at this end is set the DRA and ensure that the headlight switch is in the tail position. Unlike on other trains, there's just one switch that controls the head and tail lights, so we're going to ensure that that is in the tail position there. Going to exit the cab and take a glance at the lights, ensure that we have two red tail lights being displayed, which we do. We're now going to make our way to the front end of this 6-carriage train. And we do not have a lot of time here at all. This is quite bad. I think I started recording a bit too late. Oh dear, I'm gonna have to rush through this. So we're up at the other end, just take a quick glance, ensure that we got the two red tail lights being displayed. We then enter the cab, open this cabinet here. These two top switches, the middle switch and the top switch I should say, need to be turned into the vertical position there. Those are your KVB and TVM safety system switches. And then your standard safety system isolation switches over here need to be turned into the vertical positions as well. So your AWS and DSD switches. Sit in the driver's seat, insert your master key, FNR switch into neutral, and acknowledge the AWS self-test sequence. Now make a clockwise check of the cab starting from the left. So headlight switch goes into the night running position in this case because it is clearly night time. We now need to configure the train to draw power from the overhead cables. To do that, we simply hold down the CTRL button over here, wait for it to light up. We then press this yellow button here, pan up, shoes down. The line volt light should illuminate. We then need to make sure that this light below the line volt light, I think that says VCB, MCB, we need to make sure that that has extinguished. So to do that, we just press the pan up, shoes down button a final time, and that light has now extinguished. So line volt light needs to be illuminated and the light below it needs to be extinguished. That tells you that you are successfully drawing power from the overhead cables. So yeah, I'm trying to rush through the commentary because we don't have a lot of time and I'm forgetting to breathe. We now need to quickly test the KVB safety system thing here. FNR switch into forward, hold down the test button, let it run through its little test sequence, and that is all good. We're now going to perform a static brake test. So again, FNR switch is still in the forward position, and similar to what we do on the Electrostar, PBC into the emergency position, back into full service, and then gradually move it down to the off position. in small steps. So we're now in the minimal braking position there. Into the off position, observe the brake pressure drop towards 0, and then shoot it all the way back into the emergency position before the brake pressure actually does drop to 0. Then pull it back into full service, and that is the static brake test complete. Tell a lie, it's not complete. F&R switch back into neutral. Test the emergency brake plungers, so push that in, pull it back out, and to reset the brake pressure you just move the PBC into full service, into emergency, and then back into full service, and do the exact same thing with the other brake plunger over there. I am butchering the commentary right now. Okay. And finally we're gonna go outside and check that the lights are being displayed correctly, which they are. Night running configuration, and our setup has been completed just in time. I forgot to set the DRA before switching on the cab, but that is not a big issue. But we're just gonna quickly test it, see if it works, which it does. It's not going too well, is it? Okay, so we're down to 15 seconds prior to our departure time. I'm just gonna quickly look through the cooling pattern here just in case. Yep, that is the standard cooling pattern for this service. Right, we're now at our scheduled departure time, so I'm going to whack the door close button here. The door interlock light on the class 395 Javelin is a bit dodgy. It's weird, like sometimes it lights up whilst the doors are still open, so you have to listen for the sound of the doors closing to know that they're closed. I don't know why it does that. Anyway, green signal, which I forgot to call out before closing the doors, but I did look at it. It's right in front of me, of course. And the letter the letter R tells us that we've been routed onto the, I think that stands for reversible line or something. I haven't got a clue. Let's just go. This is gonna end so badly, but I'm still gonna upload it because why not? F&R switch into forward, and we are going to test the whole start button here as we depart from St. Pancras International. So I've moved the PBC into the off position, holding down the hill start button. We can see that the brake pressure is being held at the minimal position. Power notch 1, then releasing the hill start button after about a second, and we are departing 90 seconds late from St. Pancras International. I should have started recording earlier, but oh well. Anyway, so I released the hill start button, the brake pressure dropped to 0 there. Going to increase the power to notch 2. Speed limit departing St. Pancras International is 40 kilometers an hour. For the initial part of this journey, our speed will be measured in kilometers per hour. Kilometers per hour? Kilometers per hour. What am I? And then after Ebbsfleet International, they will be measured in miles per hour. The speed will be measured in miles per hour. What is going on with my commentary, man? So yeah, we got up to 39 kilometers an hour, so I've just moved the PBC back into the off position. We passed a speed board with the number 60 on it, so our speed limit will be going up to 60 kilometers an hour once the back of our train has cleared that. However, at 50 kilometers an hour, we need to perform a running brake test. So I'm not going to accelerate all the way up to 60 kilometers an hour. I'm just going to use power notch 2 to slowly accelerate towards 50. I'm not going to accelerate straight up to 50 because we are currently on an upward gradient, and running brake tests are not to be commenced on upward gradients, only downward gradients or level terrain. So we're now on level terrain, we're up to 50 kilometers an hour, I've shut off the power and I make an immediate 50% brake application there, and observe the speed fall by about 15 kilometers an hour. Then immediately release the brakes. Once the brake pressure falls to 0, I'm then gonna select power notch 3. And a bunch of things happened whilst I was doing the running brake test. So for starters, the speed limit went up to 80 kilometers an hour. We passed an 80 board not long before entering the tunnel. Now that we're in the tunnel, we're under a signaling system known as TVM, which stands for Transmission Voie Machine. I'm not going to go into too much detail explaining this. One, because I want to save it for an ultimate guide of the Class 395 Javelin when I eventually make one. And two, because I'm trying to drive at the same time. If I try to explain the TVM signaling system, it's going to end badly. But in simple terms, we need to drive at the speed that's being displayed here. That's the simple way to put it. It gets a bit more complicated than that, but I'll try and explain it as we get further along our journey. But to put it simply, you need to drive at the speed that is being displayed on the dashboard there. So speed limit is currently 200 kilometers an hour. And I just acknowledged the vigilance alert there. You can now see that the display has changed. We can see it was momentarily showing 225 flashing, so the speed limit was 225 miles an hour. Kilometers an hour, guys. I meant kilometers an hour. But the flashing indication told us that we had to expect a reduction in the speed limit. You can now see the number 200 in white diamonds. White diamonds tell you that you need to be doing 200 kilometers an hour at the next what's it called? We'll call it a marker board. So the blue square with a yellow triangle inside it. You can now see that it's changed to 160, so we need to be doing 160 at the next marker board. So I'm just getting a bit of serious braking in there. 165 instead of 160 as we pass the marker board there. We now need to be doing 130, so again, just a bit of serious braking. There's a 15 kilometer an hour threshold above the instructed speed, so you can enter the next signal section a bit faster than the speed you've been told to travel at. But if you're over 15 kilometers an hour above the speed that you've been instructed to travel at, you're going to get an emergency brake application. So just continuing to follow the instructions being given to me. And the 100 in with a black background, that just means that we need to do 100. The green background and the black background means the same thing. But they don't exactly mean the same thing, but you can just take them to mean the same thing. Like, honestly, I can't be bothered to explain this in too much detail. And here we are, Stratford International. So I aim to exit that tunnel at about 80 kilometers an hour, and from there a minimal brake application should have you stopped in about the right place, and aim to enter the platform at about 50 kilometers an hour there. I think I was doing a bit more than that, but yeah, normally minimal brake application of 50%. You just want to be bouncing between those two, and that should bring you to a decent stop. There's our 6-car marker coming up here, and I'm just going to aim to come to a stop with that in the window there. Perfect. F&R switch into neutral and door release on the right. I'm not going to move the PBC into the full service position like I would do driving other trains, and that is simply because the brakes take too long to release. So when the doors have closed, me having to pull that all the way back, wait for this to drop down, wait for the brake pressure to drop down, it's long. I can even demonstrate it now, like look. So that's full service. Look how long that takes to come off. I'm at, no, I'm not waiting that long. I'm sure drivers do that in real life. But I mean, if anyone drives these things in real life, because I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know you guys do that. Come on now. Anyway, we're about a minute and a half late, so we're gonna get our doors closed. And again, the door interlock light comes on straight away. I don't know why it does that. So just listening for the sound of the doors closing. They are now closed. Glancing at the monitors. There's no signal to glance at, so we glance at our little TVM display there, 100 kilometers an hour. F&R switch into forward. Power notch 1, just until the brake pressure falls to 0. And I'm gonna up it to power notch 2 at the moment. Glancing at the monitors as we pull away. And up to power notch 3. And our speed limit should be increasing to 225 kilometers an hour as we enter the tunnel. So the first tunnel we were in is known as London Tunnel number 1. The second tunnel is London Tunnel number 2. There we go, 225 kilometers an hour. So I've gone into power notch 4. Next station is Ebbsfleet International, and at Ebbsfleet International we will be doing a power changeover, so we will no longer be drawing power from the overhead electrified cables. We will instead be drawing power from an electrified third rail. And Ebbsfleet International is nowhere near here, so I now have to try and think of something to talk about. So yeah, this is just something different I thought I'd try out. This is an extremely long journey and I'm recording this quite late at night, so my commentary is most certainly gonna die off towards the end. But you know, that's just part of the process. I'll try my best to make this video as enjoyable as possible. I don't know, just let me know in the comment section. What do you guys like about the videos? What don't you like? I have a feeling there's going to be some people that will listen to this to fall asleep. Like, because I feel like I have a very relaxing and chilled out voice, so just these types of videos could be used as background noise, almost like ASMR or something. You're not even going to be watching what I'm doing, you're just listening to my voice. I feel like that might be a thing. Why did I say that? Why would I say such a thing? Oh dear me. Just acknowledging that vigilance alert. And we're currently on an upward gradient, that's why our speed is taking so long to reach 225. It's not actually going to get up to 225 until probably about a couple miles from here. actually maybe not a couple miles. I think I stretched it a bit, probably in about half a mile from here. That's when we'll get up to 225. That's when we enter the summit of the gradient. That's when we pass over the summit of the gradient, I should say. Poor wording on my part. Yeah, just look how long it's taking for us to reach 225. Oh yeah, that's another thing I should probably point out. You guys are probably so confused right now. I mean, most of you probably play Train Simulator, so you'll know about this little speedometer here. But for those of you that don't, the Class 395 Javelin is fitted with a digital speedometer, which when I first played this, when I first drove this train back in Train Simulator 2014, this was so awkward. It was so weird for me to get used to. But once I learned about, oh yeah, we're on the downward gradient, so I've just shut off the power there. And our speed is rolling up towards 225. We're now on level terrain, so I'm just using a bit of power notch 3 just to creep up towards 225. Once we get closer to 225, I'll reduce the power as appropriate. So yeah, this digital speedometer, I was so baffled at first. I was like, how am I supposed to know? I can see how fast I'm going, but how am I supposed to know when to brake or when to accelerate? What I realized is that these arrows actually tell you that. So you can see there's an arrow. Oh, let me slow down and explain this properly. There's a small arrow next to the speed. We're on an upward gradient. It's just at full power. And we've just passed over the summit, so shutting off the power again. Yeah, that small arrow more or less tells you if you're accelerating or decelerating. So it's currently pointing upwards, so that tells us that we're decelerating. Oh my gosh. That tells us that we're accelerating, and now it's pointing downwards, so that means we're decelerating. And when it turns into a dash, that means you're neither accelerating or decelerating. So yeah, by looking at that, you're able to balance out your speed a bit more in an efficient manner. There's the Dartford crossing over there. Actual name for that is the Queen Elizabeth II Bridge. Okay, so our 225 indication there is now flashing. That tells us that we can expect a speed reduction. I'm going to make a 50% brake application straight away because we are on a severe downward gradient, and that is going to significantly reduce our ability to decelerate. We can now see that we have a number 200 with white diamonds. That tells us that we need to be doing 200 kilometers an hour at the next marker board, and we're already below 200 kilometers an hour, so I've just reduced the brakes to minimal force. And we're now on an upward gradient, so I'm going to actually release the brakes there, and our speed should continue to fall because of gravity. See that we now need to be doing 160 by the next marker board. Currently at 171, so we're within the 15 kilometer an hour threshold, so that's okay. And we entered the next signal section at 163. We now need to be doing 130, so getting a minimal brake application in there again. Down to 145, so within the 15 kilometer an hour threshold, and there's the marker board there. And the 130 has now changed to a black background, so we have no further speed reductions. However, we're quite close to F Fleet International, so I'm not going to release the brakes. If anything, I'm going to increase the braking up to 50%. And we're going for a 50 kilometer an hour entry speed into the platform. Just acknowledging a test magnet for the AWS. 55 kilometers an hour entering the station. And we're saying goodbye to the TVM signaling system. We're now going to be under conventional British signals, so the colour light signals. And our speed is also going to be in miles an hour from here onwards. The speedometer automatically changes to read miles an hour when you change your source of power. And I'm going to go through the process for that now. So just been bouncing between 50% and minimal on the brake application there, and came to a stop with the minimal position selected. Because we're changing power, I just select full service as a safety precaution, into neutral, and door release on the right. Right, so to change power, we need to hold down the DC button, wait for it to light up, and press the pan up shoes down button. When you're configuring the train to draw power from the electrified third rail, you only need to press the pan up shoes down button once, and the line volt light will illuminate straight away, and the other light, I can't remember what it's called, VCB, MCB, that will extinguish straight away. Both of those events happen with one push of the pan up shoes down button. Anyway, me trying to sound like a smart, just close the doors. Go. Green signal, pressing the door close button. We're about 2 minutes late, but it is what it is. Doors have closed. Green signal again, glancing at the monitors. F and R switch into forward. Releasing the brakes. Power notch 1 when the brake pressure gets below 20%. And once the brake pressure falls to 0, straight up into power notch 4. Speed limit is currently 60 miles an hour. And the letters DK on the display above that signal there tell us that we are being routed onto the Down Kent line, I think it is. And now that we're drawing power from the electrified third rail, our acceleration capabilities have severely reduced. Was that even a grammatically correct statement? Well, our acceleration capabilities have severely reduced. Do you know what? We'll go with it, innit? We'll go with it. Yeah, we're not gonna be able to accelerate as quickly as we did on the overhead sections. That's just due to the lower voltage. Electrified third rail is charged at 750 volts. Overhead cables are charged at 25,000 volts. So there's a significant difference in power. Speed limit is now 70 miles an hour. And because we're running a bit late, I'm going to drive a bit more aggressively than I normally would. So we just passed a warning board for a speed reduction down to 30 miles an hour. I would normally get the brakes in as I pass that warning board, but because I'm trying to make back time, I'm going to leave the brake application until a bit later. So passing that signal there, I'm going to make an immediate 50% brake application. So braking harder and later is a good way to recover time if you're running late. Down to 41 miles an hour. Gonna reduce the brakes to a minimal application. 35, 34. And the 30 board is hidden in the dark. It's gonna jump out at me. There it is. Down to 28 miles an hour. So was braking a bit too hard, but it is what it is. The brakes on this are similar to the class 700, in the sense that you can make very precise brake applications across the percentage spectrum. it's not like an electro star with 25, 50, 75, 100. The minimal brake application is 20%, and then from there you can make very fine increments up to 100%. So just using bursts of the minimal brake application to bring us to a stand at the 6 carriage stop mark here. There we go, just putting that in the window there. We're at a stand. F&R switch into neutral, door release on the left. I am tired, but I need to get through this. I really need to get through this. I was meant to record this morning, but I couldn't wake up. My alarm clock went off. You know when you have that battle in your head, debating whether you should wake up or not? I lost the battle. I went back to bed. I was too tired, so I didn't get to record this in the morning when I should have. So now I have to record it now before I go to sleep, because I'm definitely not going to record it tomorrow morning because reasons. Anyway, green signal, door close button. Glancing at the monitors as the doors close. Doors have closed. Glancing at the signal and the monitors a final time. F&R switching to forward, releasing the brakes and power notch 1. Glancing at the monitors a final time, and because we're still running a bit late, I'm just going to go straight into power notch 4, just so we can have maximum acceleration. Up to 30 miles an hour, so I'm shutting off the power. And there's a small board down there telling us that our speed limit will be increasing to 50 miles an hour. So I'm just waiting for the back of our train to clear that. That board was extremely hard to make out. A lot of those smaller boards down at track level, they're almost impossible to make out. You literally have to know what they say. It's not like you can just look at it. Anyway, yeah, back up to full power, accelerating towards 50, and because we're now on a downward gradient, I'm going to shut off the power at 48 miles an hour. The station that we just called at was Gravesend, by the way. I don't think I said that. Well, I've said it now. I actually don't think I said that. Next station is Strood. And we just passed the board with the number 70 on it, so I'm accelerating up to that speed, back up to full power. You guys might recognize this section of the route from my first video, my first commentated drive. That was in a class 700 between Dartford and Raynham. So we're going to be following that same route up until Raynham, and then from Raynham, instead of getting routed into platform 0, we're going to be continuing straight. So now that we're up to 70 miles an hour, I'm going to be bouncing between the off and power notch 1 positions, and that's a good way to maintain 70. Once our speed rolls down to 67 miles an hour, I'll go into power notch 1. Once the speed increases to 70, I'll shut the power off, and I'll keep repeating that process just to maintain 70 miles an hour. So down to 67 miles an hour, so move the PBC into power notch 1 there, and it should begin to creep back up towards 70. There's a class 700 over there, most likely headed towards Luton. This is Hugh Junction Freight Depot. Although you can't really see it, it's pitch black. I'm sorry guys, I know a lot of these videos have been filmed during the night in game, but I don't know this. Well, for one, I like syncing up my game time with real time, so it's 9 o'clock at night right now. But also, I just feel like it adds to the versatility of the videos, the content. Variety, versatility, variety. My brain isn't working. But yeah, it's just I just feel like I really like these nighttime ones, you know. I just really like them. And I hope you guys do too. Even though you can't see anything, just try your best to just enjoy the ride, please. This is why I don't like recording videos after I do my shifts, because I have no energy. My commentary just sounds so... Anyway. So this is Hiram Station that we're passing through now. We're not stopping here. Blasting my horn at this reckless person standing close to the edge of the platform. This is Hiram Tunnel that we're currently in. We're going to be briefly exiting this tunnel and then entering another tunnel. The second tunnel is Strood Tunnel. At the end of that tunnel, we have a speed reduction down to 15 miles an hour from 70 miles an hour, which I think is insane. I would feel a lot safer if, I don't know, maybe it was gradual reductions in the speed. Just having to decelerate down from 70 miles an hour to 15 miles an hour for a sharp curve to the right seems very reckless. It's a very uncomfortable experience. So yeah, the moment we pass the warning board for that 15-mile-an-hour speed limit, I'm gonna get the brakes in straight away. I'm not taking no chances. So yep, just making a minimal brake application from now, and I'm most likely going to need to increase that as we get closer to the end of the tunnel. There's a signal just outside of the tunnel, so that is a good form of reference. Something terrifying happened to me one time. This was, when was this? This was probably, I wasn't new to this route. I think I'd driven quite a few trips by this point, but it was less than a year after the route came out. I'll explain it in more detail as we get closer to Strood Station, because I need to focus right now. So yeah, we're down to 15 miles an hour with loads of room left. There's the signal I was talking about, and there's the 15 board there. Look at that. Speed limit changed, speedometer changed from 16 to 15 just as we passed the board. Talk about good timing. And we're now on an upward gradient, so I'm going to need to use the power notch 1 position just to maintain 15 miles an hour as we enter the platform here at Strood Station. And you can see our signal at the end of the platform has 5 white lights pointing diagonally upwards to the left. That tells us that we are being routed to the left instead of straight ahead. So we're turning off of the North Kent line to join up with the Chatham main line. Just coming to a stop here. I'm not going to stop with the stop board in the window there because that is too far forward. So I've just stopped a bit in front of us to the left a bit. F&R switch into neutral and door release on the left. So yeah, I'll tell you guys about the the little story. More or less, as you know, the first tunnel is called Higham Tunnel. The second tunnel is called Strood Tunnel.